If you clicked on this video because you're considering starting a garden, maybe on a small lawn or on a back deck, then the short answer to your question is yes, you definitely should. It's definitely worth it. But if you want to keep watching, I'm going to give 5 reasons why I think it is super worth it to start your small garden. So let's go ahead and jump into the first one. So reason 1 you should start your small garden is because you can grow so much abundance in just a small space. And I know this because I've been doing it for years now. I personally just have a small front yard in the suburb right now, and it's not even being utilized as well as it could be, but this has been my best year yet. I have grown over 110 pounds of tomatoes so far, tons and tons of potatoes, squash, pumpkins, corn, sunflowers, herbs, beets, lettuce, all kinds of things. I've grown so much, and it's all in just this small little space. There are people that make their livings off of market gardens that they take to the farmers markets that they grow in very small areas, in suburbs even. It's just truly about how you utilize the space. And if you're really not interested in the food side of it like I am, if you're more just maybe you like flowers, cottage garden type vibe, it is definitely worth it too in a small space. You can pack so many beautiful flowers and so many beautiful things in that small space. And kind of similar to what I said before, but people make their livings off of market flowers and they grow them in these small areas. It is so possible. You just have to be a little bit creative with the layout of things, but it is so worth it as far as if you're thinking you might as well just wait because you would barely be able to grow anything. Not true. Even if you have dreams of a business side of it, there is so many ways that you can start in a small space or just do it in a small space and stay there. But that is reason number 1, because you can just do so much with so little. My number 2 reason to start your small garden is because grass lawns are often harder to take care of and maintain than gardens. They are truly a waste of space and they are bad for the environment. So this is where I try not to rant because it's not good to rant, but I definitely have a dislike of lawns. One of my personal biggest pet peeves, you could say, is when I'm out doing my daily walk or driving by and I see all this perfectly mowed lawn that is usually very big, not even super small lawns, but I go past very big lawns and it's not being used for anything. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not a complete hater. I understand that there is some purpose for lawns, for kids playing, dogs playing, for you to do some croquet or pass a baseball around, right? Like, I get that fully. I would argue that there's better plants to have be lawns. For example, you can have moss lawns, clover lawns. Those are way better. But when it comes to the grass lawn, I truly dislike it. Almost all grasses, if not all, I'm not 100% sure, but almost all grasses are not even native to North America. So grass is an invasive species, and we can see how it completely gets out of control. I mean, if you've ever tried to pull grass out of gardens all the time, like I have to, it gets tall so quickly. People in the summer often have to mow every week to keep up with it, and that is so bad for the environment as well, like, and bad for your money, for your paycheck, because that money to buy gas to run the mowers, and then that just going into the air and having to do it so often just to keep a lawn that, and I'm gonna be for real, oftentimes people don't even use it for their dogs or their kids or, you know, playing out on. They just do it because that's the norm. It's been kind of in our society for a very long time. It has just kind of been a status symbol in a way to have the perfectly mowed grass lawn. And that's not even adding to the conversation the fact that lots of people use weed killers and are just poisoning the planet truly with these things, all for the sake of a purposeless little space. But I do think we are starting to see reform with this idea of the lawn, and I would encourage you to be part of that. Think for just a moment to all the areas you've seen with just lawns, right? And think if all of those areas had gardens. Just think about the ability to just barter or share with our neighbor different crops. Or even if you're not into the food side of things, again, just filling those yards with native plants and being able to see beneficial insects dwell there. I know where I'm from in Maine, for example, there is a lot of people trying to bring back the monarch butterfly because the numbers just fell so much, but they are coming back up because so many people are planting milkweed. But there's just so much you can do with a lawn space outside of just having a lawn. And even if you're not somebody that really wants to keep up with something or maintain it, there's definitely types of gardens that you can put in that basically you just plant it and forget it. Perennial plants, they just re-come back every year. I don't have to do anything with the flower beds that my mother has put in because they're all perennial. They just come back. Maybe I pull a couple weeds that made their way in there, but you really don't have to do much. And it's just so much better and so much prettier too. Number 3, we kind of started touching on in the last one, but having a garden area in your front yard or backyard instead of a lawn, you can really help the ecosystem and just nature as a whole. There's so many invasive plants that are just wreaking havoc really on our ecosystem, and having an area where we're planting native plants, different flowers for the pollinators or host plants for these beneficial insects, and not only helps the insects, but then it continues to help. It brings back birds and other wildlife as well. Here's kind of scary to think about fact, but it is true that, and this is very prevalent for where I am too, and it is for a lot of places, tick populations are actually higher in suburban areas than they are in the forest. And that is generalization, but it's true. And the big reason why this is because areas like the suburbs, the ecosystems are just thrown off. Anywhere that you're having settlement happen in a traditional way where you're not really caring about being part of the bigger picture, you're just focusing on settling, being part of the grid, all those things, it throws the ecosystem off. And whenever it's thrown off, only negative things really occur. This is where we see areas with overpopulation problems of different species and just things like that. And so in Maine, for example, ticks are huge problem. We have tons of ticks, and I know just the example here, we have deer that walk through all the time, but we don't have any predators of the deer that really are in the area, right? So there's just a lot of things that can go unchecked that just don't finish the circle, if you will. So anyway, we can be more a part of the ecosystem and just helping our natural habitat, the better. You can actually get your lawn certified to be natural habitat if it meets the criteria. So that's really cool too. So there's definitely different ways to go about this, different visions. So you can do super food oriented, but if that's not super your thing, then you can also go down the route of just having your lawn become part of a natural habitat, and that's so cool too. Number 4, gardening is a rewarding, outdoor, active hobby to have. And in a time period where so many people are depressed, feeling lack of purpose in their life, just searching for meaning and trying to find ways to be healthier, but so many people are just inside, not active, spending so much time on screens. And truly, gardening solves so many of these problems if more people took it up as a hobby. Just for one, nurturing a living thing, whether it be, a plant or anything else, just brings so much purpose to you. And it's so amazing to watch as it grows and the success you feel when it produces a crop or produces its first flower. It brings such joy and accomplishment just in that. It also helps to teach you to not have instant gratification, because there's no possible way for a plant to just overnight grow. You know what I mean? It's a process, but it's a process that's worth waiting for. And I think that's something we all need to practice as well, is just taking our time to see the amazing results of something. And of course, too, it is a great way to get outside. there's a lot of scary statistics out there. For example, being that about 90% of the American population spends 22 hours or more indoors every single day. And that's awful to think about. It just shows where so many of these health problems are coming from, because of course not only the lethargy in it and the lack of proper nutrition, but not getting enough sunlight, that contributes to not only physical but mental health as well. Our bodies need the sunlight to function properly, whether it be to keep our emotions in check. SAD is definitely a real thing, and it comes from not having enough sunlight. We also need the sunlight to sleep properly, and of course, not having good sleep just can throw so many things off. And that's just a few examples. We definitely need to have the push of being outside more and spending more time outdoors for us as a society to truly thrive the way we should. So anything to get us outdoors is a positive. And lastly, it is definitely an active activity as well. You can design gardens around different levels of physical fitness or abilities. For example, if you're somebody elderly or if you're somebody in a wheelchair, you can design gardens so that they function well for you and that you can participate in gardening for sure. So no matter what level you're at, it's just a great way to start getting in the habit of slow movement and just moving your body a little bit, which of course is always going to be a positive. And number 5, the last on the list, is gardening can not only bring you joy, but can bring those around you joy as well. It is so important for us to have community and have people that we can share things with. Having a garden is just such a great way to share happiness with others. Who doesn't love receiving a bouquet of flowers, especially if you grew them in your own garden? Or who doesn't love getting a, little basket of goods that somebody grew in the garden that they can have to snack on? One of my favorite parts of gardening for sure is being able to share in the abundance with others. I have an elderly neighbor who I always would walk to their house every day when I was in elementary school to get piano lessons, and they did it for free, and it was amazing. And they are quite elderly now and no longer live right up the street, but in like a facility for the elderly. And I love bringing her just a big thing of cherry tomatoes from my garden, and it brings her so much joy every time I do. And that brings me joy as well. I've also given from the garden to many other people as well. I ask just about everybody I see if they want anything. Somebody came to the door, it's politics season, so somebody came to the door to talk about politics, and I sent him home with a big thing of tomatoes as well. Went to a yard sale and talked about gardening with that person. I've never met them before, and brought them back tomatoes too, because they said their tomatoes didn't do so well. So I just went home and grabbed some tomatoes and brought back to them. It is of course great to receive, but nothing is better than giving. And in gardens, they don't ever stop giving. They just keep giving as long as they are alive and thriving. And then through that you can give. And it's just so impactful and so community building and heart building and just a wonderful thing. So that was 5 reasons why it is definitely worth it to start that garden. Even if you're completely new to it, everybody has to start somewhere. I remember my first time gardening about 6 years ago. I got maybe a handful of tomatoes for the year, other things, but comparing that to this year, it's crazy, and I never would have gotten to this point unless I started. So if you're looking into things like that, please feel free to check out the rest of my channel. I talk a lot about gardening and just my life homesteading and living a slow, simple, natural life. Please don't forget to like this video and leave a comment if you're so inclined. And please do subscribe to join this community of like-minded folk. That is going to do it for this week's video, but I put up a new video every single Monday, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye!